and then they put obviously there's a powder to bind it. Definitely not the greatest thing, but the promoter in DFA made a great job to clean it at least.
Toto, once you do get going, it's going to be all about tyre drag, this one, isn't it? Great performance from George in qualifying. What kind of race pace do you think he's going to have? Is he out of position here, or can he challenge for the victory?
I think yesterday was so close in terms of race performance, but if you look from the previous races, the McLaren have been very strong. Lewis was phenomenal in the sprint race yesterday. Max, you can never discount. So I think everything is possible, but a podium would be good.
Have you changed the car a lot since the sprint race, using that information to make sure you've got the best car on the weekend?
I've changed it quite a bit, but I think it's going to be still front limited.
There are so many unknowns here, aren't there, as well? So many unknowns, Toto, with the hard tyre, a full Grand Prix distance in the wet in 2025 machinery. How are both your drivers approaching this? George, yes, as your leader with so much experience, but your rookie Kimi Antonelli down in P8 as well.
Yeah, and it's exciting to follow his trajectory of development. He's doing the laps, he's continuing to perform. We're setting the right expectations, not to, he doesn't need to win every single qualifying race. That's going to come.
Great stuff. Thank you very, very much. Good luck today then, Toto. Okay, well, we are dotted all over this incredible Shanghai International Circuit. Tom Deacon is soaking up all the hype, all the vibes somewhere in the grandstands.
Yes, I am, Laura. Ni hao. I'm with all of the incredible Chinese fans right now who are loving life. Look at this. Who are you supporting today? What? Who are you supporting today? Lewis Hamilton. See, the passion is there. We found McLaren fans just behind me. Look at these guys. They're all dressed up. Look at this. Who are you supporting, sir? Max. Max. Okay, you have to think about that one, which I respect a lot. Can Oscar Piastri do it?
Yes, you can, and McLaren's going to have a 1-2 today.
What? You heard it here first. The fans have brought energy. Look at the intel, the data that's been taken in right now from some of our youngest fans. He's on camera. Yes! He loves it. They have brought so much energy to this F1 Grand Prix, the 18th one in its history. Just the energy. Are you having a good time? That is what they do. And finally, beautiful stuff. And they cannot wait for the race to get started. And nor can I. Let's throw to Laura now. Do I want a beer? Oh, no, I'm on camera. Let's throw back to Laura.
Oh my gosh, feeling the energy from the grandstands there. Thank you so much, Tom Deacon. Okay, strategy-wise, we're saying it's going to be a two-stop here. And we were asking earlier if any of the cars down the grid are going to risk starting a different tyre. What do you think?
I mean, definitely. If you're in Lawson's position or you're down the back of the grid, you roll the dice. Looks like the teams are going to be leaning really hard on the hard tyre. Everyone in the field has taken 2 sets of new ones to play with, but they know nothing about it. They haven't had the opportunity to test it, and the performance of that hard tyre through the Grand Prix, I think is going to really decide most of the pace of the leading runners.
Tyre degradation, tyre degradation, tyre degradation. That is all anybody is talking about, and it's because of this grippy new dark asphalt, isn't it? It's really causing those tyres to suffer on a circuit that already punishes the front line.
Dark asphalt, high temperature here. It's a totally different racetrack to what we've seen in previous years. We're going more than 3 seconds quicker than we have in previous Grand Prix here. All of that load has to go somewhere. It goes straight through the tyres, and that's why we're seeing this two-stopper. It was like that in the sprint race. Whoever can control the tyre well through the race is going to end up on top, but also it makes the undercut extremely powerful. It's going to be a race not only on the grid, but also in the pit lane for track position.
Oh, so pulling the trigger at exactly the right time is what counts. I love it. So much jeopardy, so many unknowns coming into this. And if Yuki Tsunoda had hooked up a perfect lap, he may well have been further ahead. The V-Cubs have been flying all weekend. Lawrence Bretos with Yuki Tsunoda.
Hey Yuki, great qualifying yesterday. How cool is it at the moment to have a car that is so fast and you know that you can go and fight for points?
Yeah, and there were a lot of places that we could improve from myself and setup-wise as well. So actually, I'm very looking forward to hit on the track with an even better car.
I know the tyres are tough around here, particularly the front. But from what you've learned, do you think you can look after them enough to go after some more points today?
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. It's the hottest, I would say, condition so far
and I think it's going to be a lot of management we have to require, and I think how you introduce and how you manage is going to be very key for this race. So I'm still feeling confident and looking forward to it. Yeah, good luck today, Yuki. Thank you.
Oh, great stuff. Look, what a story this is if the V-Cubs can get ahead of the Red Bulls. I mean, it's just a bewildering situation at the moment with those two teams. But onto the front here, Oscar Piastri versus George Russell. Here is that oil that we were talking about a bit earlier on, which could well cause trouble on the dirtier side of the grid. Alex Brundle, your thoughts and predictions, please, ahead of a start into a very challenging turn one.
We've got a battle between the teams. Can Ferrari return to their sprint race form? But it's a generational battle between the McLarens, seeking dominance in that team. Piastri has struck first this weekend. How is that going to play out over the Grand Prix distance?
It is a fascinating picture that lies ahead of us here. Thank you so much, Alex Brundle. The fans getting well and truly up for this one now. Here we go then, the Chinese Grand Prix, moments away. Oscar Piastri will start for the first time ever from pole position with his teammate Lando Norris behind him. Many predicting a McLaren 1-2, I'm sure Ferrari. Red Bull will have something to say about that. Maybe Mercedes too, if George Russell's in P2. Enjoy this one, the Chinese Grand Prix.
In one of the world's biggest and busiest cities, a showdown in Shanghai. Built to resemble the character Shang, a circuit with long corners for long careers. A layout which represents ascent to breakthrough, to greatness, to newfound glory. The balance of power shifting moment by moment. Every minor adjustment with major implications in 2025. After all the drama of the sport, welcome to the main event. It is time to take your seats for round 2. The Chinese Grand Prix starts now. Of landmarks and breakthroughs, we now arrive at the main event, the 2025 Chinese Grand Prix. Welcome to race day in China. Shanghai International Circuit hosts the second round of the Formula 1 World Championship in 2025. We have a new name starting out front. Oscar Piastri is on Grand Prix pole for the first time in Formula 1. This is the circuit he will hope to convert that pole into victory on. 5.4 kilometers, 3.3 miles for the drivers to use, and we are seeing the fastest laps ever set around here. The pole position, the fastest ever mark around this circuit, and Oscar Piastri with a 1:36.41. Now to the tyres. The C4, the C3 and the C2. The C3 and the C2 are going to be our tyres for the race. How you deploy them, how you fire them up, and crucially, how you make them last is going to be the defining story of the day. You're looking at Shanghai International Circuit. This is the grid for the second Grand Prix of the year. Back to front we go. There we'll find Liam Lawson, who will be starting from the pit lane. Gabriel Bortoletto finds himself in 19th position, the reigning Formula 2 champion. More rookies now, with Jack Doohan in 18th. He's next to Oliver Behrman, who didn't get a chance to set a push lap at the end of Q1. Pierre Gasly has gone out in both Q1 so far this weekend. He's next to Carlos Sainz, who is struggling with the balance of that car. Lance Stroll was 800th of a second behind Fernando Alonso. One driver delighted to be in the session, the other disappointed not to make Q3. Hulkenberg restoring his prowess in qualifying in 12th. Esteban Ocon taking a good step forward from Melbourne to Shanghai. Alex Albon is next to Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda was on for a mega lap, had a mistake and washed wide on the exit of turn 13. Kimi Antonelli is in 8th next to Isaac Hadjar, who starts his first Grand Prix in 7th position after a DNS last time out. Ferrari find themselves in 6th and 5th. Did they bias the car to race pace? Not long to find out. Max Verstappen trying to be the first person ever to win from 4th on the grid around here. Lando Norris was a little bit downbeat afterwards, a little bit happy today. He goes from P3. George Russell is on the front row once again in Formula 1, but ahead of him, taking his maiden Grand Prix pole position, Oscar Piastri of Australia. After the misery of Melbourne, he is looking to turn the page and score a victory in Shanghai. In the commentary box, I'm Alex Jakes, delighted to be joined for what is going to be an enthralling Grand Prix by Jolyon Palmer, and first to David Coulthard. Gentlemen, you've both raced around this circuit, but it seems like it's going to be some task to keep the tyres alive today for the talented drivers on the grid.
Yeah, nature of every racetrack throws up different demands, and this is the classic manage your tyres. Well, you know, it's difficult to do, of course, when your natural instinct is to either try and bolt from the front or go chasing the gearbox in front of you. But I think patience is required. So I see this is going to be a bit more like a chess match. We might not really understand exactly what's unfolding in the early first few moves, but then it'll come alive.
I fancy this as a marathon rather than a sprint, this one. 56 laps, and I do agree. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of management early on, everyone looking at what everyone else is doing, and then the final bit will be a variety of strategies all coming together, and we'll see who's called it right. The cloud has actually come over us as I was walking up to the commentary box, and that will help a little bit because the sun was beating down as I was on the grid, and the temperatures have just dropped slightly, so that'll be the mercy of everyone, but it's going to be a long, hard, grueling day for the left front tyres.
It certainly will be. The sporting cliches are being used in the commentary box. We've got a chess match, we've got a marathon, not a sprint. I'm sure there's some more coming our way in a few moments' time, but for the first time in Formula 1, Oscar Piastri has waited for this moment. It will be his 48th start in the championship in the Grand Prix format. But the clock strikes 3 local time, and for the first time in Formula 1, Oscar Piastri, who has done this in a sprint format, he's a Grand Prix winner, but this is the first time that he's ever led the field away onto a formation lap from the front of the field. First time he's done that in this format for the main race since Formula 2, when he was the champion of that category back in 2021. Starting tyres for the entire field. You've got to go all the way down to Lance Stroll, who's doing something different. He is starting on the hard. Behrman is starting on the hard. And intriguingly, man from the pit lane, Liam Lawson, is getting early data on that hard tyre, potentially for that map. His teammate Max Verstappen, who goes from 4th. Everyone else on the yellow-walled medium.
And it looks like a two-stopper because of that high deg on the front left. Loads of long, fast right-hand turns around the circuit, particularly at the start of the lap, turns 1 and 2, one long deceleration zone, and that takes the pounding of the front left through another level. I quite like the idea of a few of them chancing their arm on a hard tyre to start, and they'll be hoping to be the ones bunching up at the end on a racy tyre.
Yeah, it's very evident actually looking down from our commentary box, which has to be said is one of the best of the year in terms of being able to see out over the racetrack following the action. The cars, these Grand Prix cars, they love speed. That's where they generate the downforce. They're actually at 0 speed on the grid. They're a bit cumbersome. Loads of wheel spinners who were trying to get off the grid. And actually, interestingly, a little bit of sidestepping as they struggle for traction.
But you mentioned the commentary box window, DC. We are looking at the front runners on the back straight. They were almost parked up through turn number 6. Liam Lawson, who does get a formation lap as per the rule book, but will peel into the pit lane. They were almost parked up at turn 6. So very slow pace in the middle of the pack. Not what you want as the leader, who now finds himself coming to the line.
Well, Hawkeye Alex there, you've spotted something. We've got Liam Lawson is just coming through the middle of that turn 9, and we've got the front of the grid almost coming through the final turn. So a much more spaced out, a much faster grid run for those middle to back of the starting pack.
And the medium tyres won't warm up as quickly as the soft that they've just used in qualifying. And the first corner is really tricky to get through, not only in race running, but also in the start of this Grand Prix. Long right-hander, tricky balance of throttle and brake, cars all around. Very easy to have an oversteer moment, easy to snatch a front tyre as well. It's one of the hardest first corners, I think, on the calendar.
Yeah, well, again, just pointing, Piastri's pulling up onto his grid slot now. Got Lawson just approaching the braking into turn 14. This may give us a little bit of an offset, and the guys further down the starting order will have better prepared tyres.
And just to tell you what the line of dust is on the side closest to your camera, there was an oil spill in one of the support races earlier on, and that has left a mark all the way down the right-hand side of the grid. You can see it now as Kimi Antonelli parks up. The 18-year-old from northern Italy starting this Grand Prix from 8th on the grid. Track temperature is 35 degrees, the air temperature is 27. Last cars moving into position. 19 on the grid. Liam Lawson in the pit lane. His race will begin when the green light illuminates. We wait for the green flag at the back, and then it will be a long, hard stare at the 5 red lights. When they go out, second Grand Prix of the year will begin. The Chinese Grand Prix is underway with a good reaction time for George Russell, who's playing that inside line. He's got an opportunity to dive to the inside, but Piastri was brave, and he chops across George Russell, who's vulnerable and loses out to second position. Russell will try and regather his thoughts, but he's lost the place to Lando Norris, who improves up from third to second. Piastri, then Norris. Russell had a sight of the lead, but drops down to third. Hamilton improved up to fourth. Charles Leclerc is in fifth. Max Verstappen drops down a couple of places.
Yeah, that's a brilliant start for Lando Norris, and that will be reassuring because he lost a bunch of places last year. But feisty, got his air, and here comes George Russell back at him.
Brave stuff to do that into 7. Here we go into turn number 8. That Mercedes is fast in a straight line. But if you had a half look, you could endanger yourself to Lewis Hamilton behind.
Well, that's exactly what happened to George at the start. He was desperate for that inside to get the lead in the clear air, but had himself pinned to the inside line, and Lando could sweep around the outside. Further back, Max loses out to both Ferraris.
Yeah, Charles has a broken front wing.
Instant radio from Max Verstappen. I can tell you the two racing bulls went wheel to wheel, and it's Yuki Tsunoda who gained 8th position. Aggressive opening lap to start the Grand Prix.
I think you can see the left-hand side of Charles Leclerc's front wing end plate is hanging down slightly. You can see he's under pressure now from Verstappen.
Verstappen trying to claim that place. You can see the damage as we turn into the hairpin. As turn 14, he's missing an end plate, and that is going to be a massive loss in performance for the Ferrari driver currently in 5th.
Yeah, well, the question is, where was the contact? Was it with Max? We're going to have to wait for the replay to understand. Is it just his car?
My information is the two Ferraris have made contact, and it's compromised the man from Monaco's race. Let's take you through the order in its entirety. On lap 2, we've got Oscar Piastri leading his teammate Lando Norris by 7/10 of a second. Russell, who was duking it out for the lead, lost out. That's a long way round move there, trying to take the place, doing up to 16th, and he gets past Oliver Behrman. Russell in 3rd. Hamilton and Leclerc have come together. Verstappen lost a couple of places. He's down to 6th, 7th for Kimi Antonelli. The Racing Bulls have swapped over. Tsunoda's ahead.
So Antonelli cleared Hadjar, who lost a couple of positions at the start. This is Charles Leclerc on the inside, hugging the white line and the curb. Hamilton ahead, Verstappen alongside now. He oversteers over the curb, and it just knocks him wide into Hamilton. Little bit of contact, not much between them, but it's obviously done enough to put a bit of damage on the front left, on the left-hand side end plate. But he's carrying on okay for the moment. Problem is, you're going to start to lose front downforce with any front wing damage. And we talk about the degradation on the front axle. He's not got the front downforce. It's the worst thing for that.
Yeah, just trying to get a better camera angle of that Ferrari front wing. It looks like any damage to the end plate is minimal, but as you say, everything critical. The first point of contact with the air is that front wing.
down to the heavy braking zone at the end of Formula One's longest straight. Critical laps across the Grand Prix distance here for the two McLarens battling for victory. They thought they'd have the fastest car, but the nature of this sprint weekend means you only get one practice session. Lando Norris didn't have a clean sprint qualifying, didn't have a clean Grand Prix qualifying, and as a result has been on the back foot. First ever Grand Prix pole has been converted into the race lead for Oscar Piastri, but Norris is close, he's around that margin. Yellow flag is out on the racetrack. DRS is amazing.
Antonelli was super close to Verstappen as well on the opening lap into turn 6. I thought they were about to have a tangle as the rookie just dangled the nose down the inside of the Red Bull. So Verstappen has lost out majorly. We know that the Red Bull was hard on its tyres yesterday. We know the Ferraris were very kind on their tyres. Piastri was talking pre-race about being most worried about Hamilton still.
We have 20 to 30 points lost on the front. If we can survive, we wait the first stop.
Well, you just say that from the cockpit because a pit stop now is going to be really taking Leclerc out of action, but that's pretty bad.
Yeah, 20 to 30 points. That is a massive drop-off. The only saving grace right now is this is all about tyre preservation. They'll be driving a little bit below what could be the maximum slip angle in those tyres. They want to try and avoid the micro-draining, which could put them in all sorts of trouble.
Problem is, I just think that the tyre issue is going to be so much worse, missing the downforce. So in one level, going slower and managing is okay, but on another level, it's going to be harder to manage for Leclerc.
He will be thinking of all the circuits, of all the races. This is not the day to be trying to limp around with a damaged front wing and take all of the pain. The front tyres are going to take the pain anyway in this race. With a damaged front wing, it effectively removes Charles Leclerc as a contender unless he can change it.
Brakes on fire, Alonso.
We've got drivers reporting problems for other drivers out there on the radio today. Gasly, who is looking to go on the front foot again, he's doing what he did yesterday. He's climbed 3 places already in 4 laps. He gained 5 yesterday, and he's reporting that Fernando Alonso's brakes are overheating.
Yeah, and we saw Alonso ran very deep into turn 14, and it wasn't, Pierre Gasly wasn't close enough to be able to take advantage. But there's no obvious signs of the smoke coming off those brakes right now. But yeah, good Gasly's now. Yeah, Alonso, he's backed out of it.
Alonso slowing, having had a brake fire reported by one of his competitors, and the man in the middle of the pack, who started this race in 13th, is surely trundling back to the pits to become our first retirement to the Grand Prix.
Grim start to the season for him, isn't it? 2 DNFs in a row, crash in Melbourne, no more than 3 racing laps with Fernando this time around.
Yeah, no brakes, no brakes, no brakes.
Yeah, well, it's brake-by-wire system on these cars. We've got a chance to see the start. George Russell got a good reaction and a good drive. We saw Oscar had to come across and fend that position, and while he was doing that, that allowed Lando to find his way around the outside.
Yeah, the problem is Russell was so hell-bent on getting the first corner first that by the time you can't send it in from the white line, he was vulnerable to Norris sweeping around the outside. Verstappen was solidly 4th into the first corner, but had a big oversteer as he tried to turn it in, and that cost him, and potentially Isaac Hadjar behind as well, from the outside line. This is Russell, and he has the overlap, which is just so enticing to go throw your car. There's not a big enough braking zone to launch a lunge, and he was right to back out of it, but it was just too late.
Yeah, that was brave stuff, though, from Oscar, because carrying the extra speed, we just see from the rear view there, that contact, the front wing. Charles Leclerc, he might well feel that Lewis came from a long way out, but was absolutely within his rights to come back to the apex. Good getaway for Lewis. We've got Max just ahead of him, so he's watching the action unfold. Max is having his issue out wide, and then we'll look for Charles coming through the inside, and then there's that contact with the front wing. Much better visibility on that end plate coming off the car. Yeah, well, that's what we call friendly fire. You've been hit by your teammate.
I think Leclerc was so focused on trying to get the inside of Verstappen more than Hamilton, but just had that oversteer over the curb. And you just tense up as you realise it's your teammate there, and they've only done 1 Grand Prix together. Let's see if we can spot the oversteer for Verstappen, who's right with Norris, turns it in, and there just has to correct the car, and that shuffles him wide there. He has to get out of it. Hamilton's now ahead. We'll have a great view of Leclerc striking the right rear of Hamilton. Damage for Leclerc. That was radioed in by Max, probably pretty quickly now, but he's still ahead.
Yeah, I think it's more than the end plate on that front wing of Leclerc. The actual wing was dragging on the ground as well, so I think there might be some damage to the main plane.
Gabriel Bortoleto was towards the back of the field, starting this one in 19th, and he's still running in the Grand Prix, but the car heavy with fuel on the opening lap, and round he went.
And the other Sauber, Nico Hulkenberg, started 12th, is also at the back of the field. I don't know why, but two Saubers are running around now on their own at the back. Lawson started from the pit lane and he's cleared them both.
Alonso retiring from the Grand Prix. It is worth saying as well that ahead of the race, Hulkenberg was noted by race control for doing practice starts in the wrong part of the circuit. Not a great day so far for the Swiss-based team.
This is a bit race on, isn't it, on lap 6? Piastri, I'm sure he's thinking about managing the tyres, but Norris is keeping the pressure on. Is one thing to apply the pressure, it's another thing to do that without then hurting your race later on, as Verstappen did in the sprint yesterday. But certainly Lando's cleared George Russell, which is huge for his race, and the two McLarens, like they were last week, out front with not much to separate them.
Yeah, Piastri managing that gap. He'll need to keep his eyes peeled though, because with Norris very much in the DRS, Norris, I suspect, will be on the radio to the team saying, we need to go a little bit quicker, I'm under pressure from Russell behind. But in reality, this is management right now.
Well, they are within a second. Norris will not want to damage those tyres. You want to take the cars as far through the first stint as possible to give yourself strategic options, especially when we're expecting strategy to play a large part in the race today. Yellow flag was momentarily out on the racetrack, and it's cleared now.
The biggest gap in the whole field, apart from the Saubers off the back, is Verstappen now away from Leclerc. So Leclerc's doing a good job, missing the 20-30 points of downforce, and is actually staying with Hamilton. And Verstappen, I can only imagine now he's just trying to save the tyres for later on in the stint, because he should have the pace to go with them. He's got Antonelli still for company, and Tsunoda and Hadjar as well, but he's just dropped away 3 seconds from a damaged Ferrari.
Yeah, 1.3 seconds slower than our race leader Piastri that last time around for Verstappen. Antonelli just over a second behind. And yeah, I agree. I think Verstappen, it's about long game here and trying to take it as late as he can into the Grand Prix.
The front grip fading is already being reported from drivers on the radio. I'm hearing from the gallery. So there is already a drop-off on tyre grip around this circuit that runs to 3.3 miles, 5.4 kilometres, 16 turns, and here's the driver in 16th place. He's gained a couple of positions, and now let's hear from Yuki Tsunoda.
I want to use my front.
You don't want to?
Well, I want to.
Okay, do what you need to do.
Well, that didn't take much resistance. Yeah, he's quite clear. Well, Yuki is in the car, and actually, it will turn out, we'll find out in time whether he's making the right call or not. But at the end of the day, the engineers can guide, but the drivers have to drive. As we see Fernando Alonso there, getting into the debrief for the team, a lot of frustration. All eyes on 26, and whether Adrian Newey and Honda can bring him potential race victories.
Here's the gap then, back from Leclerc to Verstappen, which is now over 3 seconds. And you can see the rest of the cars, pretty much the entire field, a line astern on that straight. Yuki Tsunoda in 8th place, saying he wants to use more of the front tyres. That is your massive limitation around this circuit. But he basically wants to go and chase after Kimi Antonelli.
I understand that. Also, the tyre gamble did not work out for Racing Bulls 1 week ago when the rain came. They weren't the only team that had that, but they did lose a lot of points when the rain came, and Tsunoda, who'd been running in the top 10 all the way through the Grand Prix, saw a chance of big points fade away. So the team making that decision, I say the team making that decision, Tsunoda just insisted, and they eventually backed down. I don't reckon Yuki goes out for dinner much with his engineer, because he'd always be picking up the bill, wouldn't it?
Yeah, okay, well, meanwhile, as we go on board with the Racing Bulls, this is a strong performance from Hadjar this weekend. He's just running slightly over a second behind his teammate Tsunoda, and this is important, isn't it? With Liam Lawson having difficulties, both these guys are under the spotlight.
Starting to struggle a little left front.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the case if you're running up the chuff of your teammate. You're taking away downforce. So maybe it was just a little hurry up from Norris when he was going up behind Piastri.
Plenty of discussion around the order issued between the two McLaren drivers a week ago. Piastri getting the instruction not to race until a later phase of the race.
I didn't know if you were going to go there that early, but you're absolutely right. Oscar was not happy. He was frustrated by that, and he's come in to this race weekend a little bit angry, and so far it's served him well.
I think for Lando early, that was a short-term push to try and get the lead. He felt if he could use the tyres whilst they were good, get the lead, he can control the race. But it was a little attack that didn't pay off for him, and now he's got to think longer term, look after the tyres and try and do something around the pit stop phase. Very impressed by Leclerc. This Ferrari's looking pretty decent for missing some front wing parts, isn't it?
Yeah, well, maybe the car was actually, on this day in history, if the wing was all intact, maybe it was just a little bit too much on the nose, and actually losing downforce has helped
the
it.
tyres for now, but we are on the quicker
Yeah, I'm good. I am good. I am better than everyone. Let's relax. I am very comfortable.
Wowee, that is some confidence, isn't it? Alex Albon, 11th, made big changes to his car. He spoke to us yesterday and said that he wasn't sure if it was enough. I love that. 9 laps later, and he is breezing it.
Well, we all know he's one of the loveliest guys
I was going to
in
say
the paddock, but we just love that sort of feisty confidence. That tells you a lot about a racing driver's psyche. He feels he's got it under control. Just let the race come to me.
I would love that if I was in the garage. Okay, you're being silenced pretty abruptly, but at the same time, you're thinking your driver's the boss here. He's really seeing how things are playing out, and he's feeling good.
Yeah, there was so much spotlight on how would he fare alongside a proven Grand Prix winner. And you've got to say, so far, so good.
The Ferrari thing's interesting, isn't it? Leclerc's 6 tenths back, 7 tenths back from Hamilton, and everyone's trying to set their car up to have a bit of oversteer in it, to try and look after that left front tyre. But it's amazing the amount of detail that goes into a little bit of front wing angle out, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then you just smash off the end plate, and suddenly you find that you've got a really well-balanced car.
Yeah, he's lost downforce, he's lost load, but if it has brought it into balance, then that's all you need. Interesting, the conversation at Ferrari, because Leclerc, if he does go for a front wing, that is a much longer stop doing the nose than just a regular tyre stop. So I think I'd be inclined for the big picture for Ferrari to let Leclerc clear Hamilton with the understanding that at the pit stop he's going to take longer.
I don't know if I'd bother changing the front wing at all at this stage.
Is the other option, which you very nicely highlight. Right now it seems to be working.
Are we in a Singapore phase here? Are we in a Monaco Grand Prix phase here, where potentially the damage to Charles Leclerc's car and the effect it's going to have on his race is being masked by the fact that everyone is racing at 95% to protect the fronts?
If it stays like this, what's planning?
Okay, so Planny. One stop, you made it work in Monza.
It's got to be a 2-stop, surely, with the degradation that we've seen so far. Maybe Ferrari were thinking Leclerc out of position to switch to a 1 before the race, to do something different with their decent tyre life yesterday. You can see the damage to the front wing. Doesn't look great, but he's going okay. It's amazing. 5 seconds clear of Verstappen.
Yeah, absolutely, but it's amazing to see with the end plate detached, the whole wing rotates and twists to drag on the ground. So you're normally not allowed that amount of deflection. So maybe this is actually, you've lost the end plate, but by having the wing come closer to the ground, you're gaining downforce.
So a pit stop for Pierre Gasly. There is. He goes past our commentary box window. He has pulled the trigger first.
There would be too much traffic, so we stick to plan B.
So Charles Leclerc being told, lovely idea, but we can't do it because you would be in the pack and you would be taking punishment at the front. 3.1 second stop for the Alpine. Will everyone now respond to Gasly, who on one-lap pace this weekend has struggled? He's gone out in both Q1s. In race pace, he's been really effective.
Well, if they think there's going to be too much traffic, that's because they think they're out of sequence with what they believe the majority will do. Because if you're doing the same as everyone else, and there's that angle of the front wing dragging on the ground, which, you know, effectively you're sealing the air, and maybe it's giving him the right amount of downforce with that amount of deflection.
And then the end part's broken clean off. So there is a situation where if the FIA deem that it's actually dangerous having the front wing dangle like that and scraping along the ground, they could do the mechanical flag. And that is what Ferrari have got to weigh up, whether it's worth the extra sort of 4 or 5 seconds to change the front wing. or do you just risk it because the car's looking okay for now and hope that you don't get pulled in anyway?
Yeah, look, any closer and he'd be able to lasso the rear wing of Hamilton.
Do you think we can make Plan C target lap?
At the moment, I think it might be possible.
I think you're absolutely right, Alex, with your sentiment before. There is plenty of management going on across the field, and that is, I think, confirmation of it. Plan C to try and shift the pit stops later and later. That might change now because Yuki Tsunoda has just pitted from inside the top 10. So that'll shuffle things around. Tsunoda was getting agitated behind Antonelli, wanted to use the front tyres more, and that's why he's the first of the main runners to pit.
So let's see, as personal bests are being set by those who have gone on to new rubber, we see Tsunoda responding, Ocon responding, Doohan 1 lap later than his teammate gets a stop that's 0.4 of a second faster. Gasly goes through, and he's gone to that fresh rubber early. That's going to give him a great grip advantage compared to everyone else. He'll take the pain of having been the first stopper later on, but he is crucially out ahead of his old teammate and rival Esteban Ocon. So Gasly with track position over Ocon, over Doohan, his teammate as well. Also, to update you on all the cars in the race, we saw Bortoleto spin on the opening lap. Hulkenberg dropped down through the order. He had contact with another car and is carrying damage to the front of his Sauber. That's why he lost a hatful of positions, down from 12th on the grid earlier on.
So Julian, just on those early stops for some of the sort of mid to back end runners, it gets them some clean air. But you would tend to want to see if you can go a bit longer if you're in that part of the Grand Prix. So how are you feeling about their early stops?
Well, it's a trade-off in this sort of race because the undercut's going to be really powerful, and that's what Tsunoda's just triggered there by pitting. Gasly did the same, and actually Gasly's only 1 second behind Tsunoda after their stops, and there was a good few cars between them before that. So as soon as you put on new tyres, you find clear air, you can go way quicker than those that haven't pitted. So now you see a flurry of other cars coming in. It's Hadjar and Antonelli who are right with Yuki Tsunoda. They've got to cover him off.
Okay, in comes Antonelli in the Mercedes, in comes Hadjar in the Racing Bulls. Chance for points with both Racing Bulls today. They need the strategy to go to plan. It's not always been the case for the Faenza-based team. Got the gamble wrong before. 3 seconds is the average pit stop time. Yuki Tsunoda went for the undercut, went for the early grip. There's the reward. He wanted to use the front tyres. He wanted to push on, and crucially, he gets track position ahead of Kimi Antonelli.
So a perfect visualization of why you'd want to pit early. Now, what's the problem of pitting early? And that is because now Antonelli will have fresher tyres by just 1 lap, but he will have better tyres later on in this stint. And it's the trade-off of how early do you go. Pitting early gives you a gain, but you'll have the punishment later on of trying to hang on to that older tyre.
Yeah, Antonelli now needs to use those new tyres.
These laps are good.
Oh, what's he losing a bit of time now?
By the way, Antonelli spent 19 laps yesterday in this position, about half a second away from Tsunoda, so I don't think he's going to be delighted at being jumped there by the Racing Bulls. I don't think that's great for Mercedes personally, leaving him just 1 lap later. There's not a massive amount of tyre freshness he's got later on, and he's lost the crucial track position. That means he can save the tyres a little bit as well.
Yeah, and he didn't get off that sequence of corners onto the main straight particularly clean, and he's going to be a little bit vulnerable to the Haas.
So Hamilton and Verstappen are pitting, and Verstappen's going to be under pressure now from Tsunoda.
In comes Hamilton, Verstappen as well. Clean pit stops vital. You can see the world champion comes in, hits his marks. Not with the tyre performance that he needs at the moment. The driver who was the winner of this Grand Prix 1 year ago, Red Bull in a dominant phase that changed when we got to Miami. And let's see where Verstappen comes out in relation to the rest of the pack. You can see Verstappen coming out in 12th position, and then you've got Tsunoda battling with Antonelli. Who will know that his race depends on clearing the Racing Bull driver?
Yeah, Tsunoda's got his mirrors full of Antonelli to care about Verstappen in the Red Bull further ahead, and Max had enough in the tank, saved his tyres for enough of an in-lap to keep him clear of these guys that pitted earlier.
We just saw the call there from Piastri's engineer box.
One stop. If it's ending. Left, clearing up.
Yeah, what I was going to say on Piastri is we see Russell, engineering from the cockpit. It's a very early call, middle of the lap, to tell him to box.
Getting the instruction in early, deciding to communicate nice and clearly. Everyone else speaking in code. George Russell saying, I think it's a 1 stop. Trying a little bit of kidology. Is he trying to force a move? Is he confident? Either way, Russell's in third. McLaren are outside our commentary box, ready to receive the race leader. Oscar Piastri is about to hit his marks. Crucial pit stop in the context of the Grand Prix. These are the pressure moments for McLaren, the reigning world champions, and it's not as efficient as they've managed in the past. 3.8 seconds, potentially. I know he's going to get fresher rubber as Russell comes in as well, so it was a little bit of kidology from him on the radio. And now Lando Norris knows he's got an opportunity to make the difference. 3.8 seconds, a little bit vulnerable, but there will be fresher rubber for Piastri. Crucial that he doesn't get any traffic as he comes out of the pits, and he does stay ahead of the sole remaining Aston Martin of Lance Stroll.
Pretty conservative from McLaren. Piastri had 3 seconds to Norris, so I don't think he'll be under any pressure from his teammate, especially now he leaves on fresher time and stays ahead of Stroll, so doesn't have to sit behind the Aston Martin. Can Russell put pressure on Norris? Norris will have to pit this lap to cover off the Mercedes. I do think that's a bit of gamesmanship, isn't it?
So down the inside for George Russell. He wasn't speaking in code. They never say one stop. Clear as day. Not the best bluffing I've heard on the radio through the years in Formula One. And let's go to Esteban Ocon, driver who started this Grand Prix in 11th position. He's made his stop. He was in 14th. And now he's made the move on the Mercedes, has he? Because that was the car in front. Ocon going super brave. And he's got to the inside, exactly a car's width left. And he took the chance.
Beauty, right on the white line. Antonelli covered the inside, but not enough for a car's width still. Esteban Ocon, a bit of grass.
If that's the white line, I don't want you cutting my grass at my tennis court. Brave, committed, and yeah, kept his foot in.
200 miles per hour, full, flat to the floor. So 3 seconds, I think, was the gap when Piastri hit the mark. It's around 2 seconds on the racetrack. Let's see. 2.2, better stop for Norris. Expecting him to be around 2 seconds in proximity to Piastri when he comes over the line. But let's see how close the two McLarens are. An important outlap for Piastri. He will get there. Now, can Norris get out ahead of the traffic? Can George Russell get back the place that he got at the start? Tyres won't be the same temperature as well. Russell's will be in a better window. They've got the marker in the way as well. Russell gets ahead. Crucial moment. George Russell, brave. They were battling up against the driver who's meant to be leaping out of the way. Stroll doesn't have to leap out of the way. They're racing with position right now. He might have old tyres, but he's allowed to race with position. No blue flags. And a crucial moment of hesitation rewards George Russell with what will be second place. And then you see, surely Lando Norris will sweep by. He does sweep by. Stroll yet to stop. Through goes Russell up to second place, and Norris having the option to take second again, next second on the road, finds himself falling behind the Mercedes man.
It's brave battling stuff from Russell there. Knew that was his chance, so he's called the shots there. The one-stop bluff, in he comes, gets the undercut chance on Norris, and that is the one chance. You have to take the advantage there. And he's had Stroll in the way as well. He's got loads of dirty air. You've got an Aston Martin scrabbling around. He's almost tipped the Aston into a spin as well at turn 3, but judged it perfectly.
That's Lewis Hamilton getting past Liam Lawson, who has yet to stop. And Hamilton was able to easily get by. And that's a tidy pass made for him. And now doing the same thing again with the yet to stop Oliver Behrman. And Charles Leclerc will get by. So the Ferrari still being led by Lewis Hamilton, winner of the sprint race yesterday, his first win in Ferrari red. Alex Albon leads the Grand Prix, yet to stop, but he is extended longer than anyone else out there. He's on lap 17, still running the mediums.
Leclerc still running the damaged front wing, but he's actually had a great first stint. I thought the Ferraris were going to start to put pressure on the top 3 at the end of that first stint. Hamilton now with his teammate just behind. Leclerc's one lap pressure on the tyres, and it's going bafflingly well with this damaged front wing.
Yeah, I think it can only be, not I'm suddenly stepping up to junior aerodynamicist, but sealing the ground. It's the ground effect, and that front wing end plate, it's obviously being neutralised, the damage that's been done, and he is now steering up the gearbox of Hamilton yet again.
This is the moment where Lando Norris exited ahead of George Russell. Russell with his tyres fired up, and Lance Stroll does not have to get out of the way here. He's yet to stop. He's not behind by a lap.
Oh, how close is that? As Stroll's turning in for an apex at turn 3, Russell is playing dare there. Just so desperate to make that move stick on Norris. It's a perfectly executed couple of corners there from George. As you say, tyres fired up in the window. Lando's coming out on new hard tyres, scrabbling around a bit more, even though he had the inside line. And Russell swept around, risked it to the apex of turn 3. And Norris has to wait a couple more corners before sweeping around the Aston.
Now, you teed up some cliches earlier in the Grand Prix. Fortune favours the brave, and that's exactly what George Russell was there.
Talking of brave, can Lando Norris reclaim the position? He knows it's vital if he's going to win this Grand Prix. He's got a car in between him and his teammate. He's diving to the inside, and Lando Norris takes back the place. A crucial move if he's going to win the Chinese Grand Prix. That could be defining for who takes home the largest trophy today.
And just ahead of them is Alex Albon, who's been passed for the race lead now by Oscar Piastri, staying out. Norris must have set that up at turn 14 at the end of the 1.2 kilometre straight. Then they were nose to tail. You get another hit of DRS over the line, and no one's taking prisoners looking to the outside today, are they? They'll go over the grass, they'll drive right to the white line on the inside, and Norris undoes that great move that Russell put on him with a nice move of his own.
How long can Leclerc stay that close to Hamilton? Clearly Ferrari are not getting involved in this race. They're not saying, stand down, and they're not saying Hamilton, let Leclerc have a run.
It's awkward, isn't it? Because I would let Leclerc through now with how close he's followed Hamilton the whole way. He might be able to attack here anyway. Hamilton's stuck behind Stroll, so these are the latest duo to be fighting behind Stroll's Aston Martin. But Hamilton will get DRS as well to defend.
I believe the Ferraris have considered the situation, and I believe the instruction is to swap positions. Hamilton, dominant yesterday on his way to sprint victory, is going to have to cede the position to Charles Leclerc. Is the information we were given. Let's see whether it works out. In practicality, the answer to that question is no, because it's a move on Lance Stroll, and so Hamilton will say, I had to take the place away from the Aston Martin. Both Stroll and Albon, they're running higher than you would expect. They've yet to stop in this Grand Prix, and we're expecting a Ferrari swap according to the radio chatter, and in the end Hamilton had to take 5th on the road.
Yeah, Stroll doing exactly what he's able to do and allowed to do, but of course it'll be frustrating for Leclerc, and it's just meant he's dropped back slightly, but he may have the opportunity to run in slightly cleaner air now and get the momentum through that 11, 12, 13 section onto the long back straight.
I quite like what Albon's doing in this race. I think it's going to reward him with a top 5 or 6 or anything, but going along, we heard him earlier in the Grand Prix saying, yeah, I'm doing better than anyone else. He's keeping these tyres alive really nicely, so now Norris is up behind him. He'll struggle to make it through in the high speed just yet, but will blast past as soon as he gets a chance with DRS shortly. But Albon's is 1 second a lap slower than Verstappen, who has pitted from that distant gap between the midfield really and the front runners, the Ferraris. And in cutting out a pit stop, you save 24 seconds. That's a lot. So even if you're 1 second down for 20 laps, you're better off to save the pit stop. And this could reward Albon, nearly at half distance, not miles away from it, and he's got a hard tyre to go onto.
Worst case scenario. So he's now been called to the pits. Worst case scenario, you have a massive benefit of fresher tyres in this stint compared to the rivals that you will be racing later on. This is going to be an easy pass for Lando Norris, who goes to the inside. Not a fair contest. And we find ourselves with Norris up to 2nd place, Albon heading to the pit lane, and we see Lewis Hamilton continuing to lead his teammates. The driver who has now won races with McLaren, with Mercedes, and now with Ferrari, and still continues to lead the man from Monaco with that damaged front wing. They're having a chat, I can tell you, on the radio. We're not hearing it on the broadcast. The gallery are telling me that they're having a chat on the radio about swapping positions, and still Hamilton leads Leclerc.
So the awkward thing here is that Hamilton has been quicker than Leclerc almost every lap of the weekend so far.
Yeah, swapping cars, 40. When it's closer, yes.
Well, it's not happened yet. That was obviously on the last lap.
Yeah, sometimes you develop radio problems when the team asks you things that you don't want to hear. Did you ever do that, Julian Palmer?
Jolyon responded to all instructions with an immediate yes.
It's the worst thing, isn't it? When you get the team orders, because you work so hard to get yourself into a position to be ahead, and as soon as you get shuffled out of the way, it's difficult to keep the spirits up sometimes.
This is a super team. You're looking at a 7-time world champion against the driver behind, who's given the longest contract in Ferrari history. There will be a constant, battle for supremacy in that team, and it's a team that we've seen in Formula One history that if you can coalesce it around you, it can get political at Ferrari. Every moment where they're told to swap over like that,
You can't get the guys ahead, you can lose. Right, it's right. Right now I'm closing up a little bit. Okay, understood.
So it's acted as a hurry-up. That is the drivers ahead. Russell's passed Albon. There they are. And Albon has not pitted as well just yet. We heard the call for him to dive in, but he's staying out. And Hamilton is having to go for it now. Albon pits and gets out of the way. So 1.6 seconds behind Russell. 3.23 seconds away from Norris.
There's the swap for the Ferraris.
We want to swap this lap, swap now. I'll tell you when we can swap. That's out.
Oh, you know, this is a baptism of the hard stop for Hamilton's new engineer. Melbourne was slightly uncomfortable, and then you're having to tell a 7-time world champion to move over. I think from a team point of view, it's the right thing to do right now, and of course, he'll get it back later in the race.
Yeah, it makes sense. Leclerc's been too close for too long in this race, and even though Lewis has looked better throughout so much of it, won the sprint, took sprint pole, has been the hero this weekend, Charles has the better chance from what we've seen so far. So Lewis has got to try and prove that wrong and stay with his teammate now and both catch up to George Russell, and then he might get the payback.
Just for reference, Charles Leclerc is 7.8 seconds off the lead of this Grand Prix. So they've had to unleash him to find out whether they can contend. From the sprint qualifying and race, you're allowed to unseal the car, make changes, and every team took what they learned in the qualifying 44 minutes and the 19-lap race, applied it. Sometimes those minor changes can favour one driver more than the other. It's worth saying as well, with the hard tyre, no one had run the hard tyre before we went racing in the Grand Prix. So sometimes the rubber speaking to the car in different ways, and without an end plate on his front wing. Charles Leclerc is the fastest driver. Can he put the pressure on George Russell for third?
Yeah, it looks like it. He seems to just be in a comfortable zone and balance. Looking further down the field, good to see Doohan having a strong race. Just a couple seconds behind Gasly, who was fast starting in this race.
Leclerc kind of has to prove it now, doesn't he? Once you get team orders in your favour, you go through, you say thank you very much, but you've now got to pull away. Otherwise, it sort of seems like you were bluffing the whole time, and you will get the place swapped around. So Leclerc's going hunting after Russell, and Russell's still not miles away from Norris. So you're right, all of these top five are not miles away from each other generally. Piastri 4 seconds clear of Lando, and Verstappen's still 3 seconds back from the Ferraris as well. The whole field fairly tightly packed.
This was the moment on board with Charles Leclerc. He got past.
This is a shame. The place is
differing approaches on the radio. Charles tugging
well done. I'm sorry about that. Keep pushing.
Yeah, so that's Charles's engineer giving it. Look, we've been explaining to Hamilton, but understandably Hamilton's been trying to look at the traffic ahead and run his race. But look at that front wing. Amazing that he's able to still deliver the performance.
His partner, Alexandra, looking on. It's lap 22 of 56. Oscar Piastri has led his teammates throughout. George Russell gained a position at the start. Lando Norris claimed it back. And then you have Russell in third. Charles Leclerc is now the lead Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton in fifth. The world champion Max Verstappen in sixth place. And then you get to Stroll and Behrman, who are having a tussle out there between each other. They've yet to stop. And Stroll has already played a part in the upper reaches of the Grand Prix earlier on when Norris came out of the pits. But Behrman having a much better second round than first round of the season.
I quite like the one stop today. I'm now thinking maybe Russell wasn't bluffing. He was genuine in his thoughts, and the thoughts weren't bad. He just got overruled by his team, because Behrman has just done a personal best. He started on a hard tyre, admittedly, so it's the more durable one. He's got to switch to a medium. But his last lap in a Haas is only 6/10 slower than Piastri out front, having done 23 laps on his tyres.
Yeah, well, it's all going to become clear once the two stoppers finally get around to making their stop. We've got Leclerc now within a second of George Russell. So we're about to see some on-track action between those two.
4.1 seconds between Piastri and Norris. Norris, the championship leader, coming into this race, ahead of Max Verstappen, who he beat by 0.8 of a second in the opening Grand Prix of the year. A reminder that no one had run the hard tyres before this Grand Prix, so as a result, the drivers who started on the hard having a better time than perhaps even they thought. That's the sight of Alex Albon making an overtake. Plenty more to come from him, you would suspect, given he's got fresher rubber. That was him getting past the Alpine of Pierre Gasly.
This is the payback for Albon then, having fresh tyres, passing people that pitted a long time ago. Over 10 laps already for Gasly as the first stopper. So Albon cruising past, and he'll be getting back towards the points pretty shortly, I think, having a very nice drive.
Better won't want to damage those tyres, even though he is on a one-stop. He's going to try and make that pass. You can see he's got the DRS. He gets it on 2 occasions around this racetrack, but there's the 16 turns. Behrman racing here today for the first time. It's only a 5th Grand Prix start for the British driver. It's his first full season in Formula 1. His best ever finish in the category is 7th place, and that's the position he's trying to take away from the Aston Martin driver.
And this is good intel for everyone else that's just pitted onto the hard tyres. So Stroll and Behrman were 2 of the 3 that started on the hards. Lawson was the other.
Give me some feedback, guys. Come on, I need feedback of where I'm losing. Just give me... Exit 13, 1-3 to improve. Yeah, you told me that already. The rest seems good. Keep monitoring.
He's dropping away, nearly 2 seconds back from Leclerc, and wondering why. Exit of 13, that is the long corner onto the back straight where Charles Leclerc is right now, and it's a critical corner. You jump on board, Lewis Hamilton through there.
Hamilton with just his 2nd Grand Prix weekend, switching from Mercedes to Ferrari. DC, you've switched between a couple of teams in your Formula 1 career. It can take a while to get up to speed.
Yeah, but in the case of when I went to McLaren when I was 9 seasons, when I went to Red Bull, I basically had Red Bull buy the technology to see a lock-up and a attempt at a pass. Didn't quite work out. Stroll retakes the place. And, well, a little bit of action down in that hairpin. I don't think that lock-up will have put a flat spot on the Haas.
Have to admire the effort from Ollie Behrman. Didn't work out for him, though. He remains in 8th place.
It was meaty, wasn't it? Screeching to a hole, trying to dive at the inside at 14. He's been following Stroll for many laps and he's getting frustrated. This car is so much better than last week. Ocon's running in the points. Behrman's trying to attack Stroll from everywhere now.
Charles Leclerc, he's got within DRS with George Russell in the battle for 3rd.
Mercedes is a thruster out of the field. Unbelievable. The trucks that they have there is unbelievable.
It can be deceptive sometimes when you're in the dirty air. 12, a very low speed, would suggest mechanical sort of transition to aero, and the launch from Oliver Behrman, and yet he's doing his own ABS there, making sure he doesn't damage that front tire. Well, 11 out of 10 for effort. Didn't quite manage to fully execute.
And further back in the field, this is Carlos Sainz in the Williams, his new team for 2025, out-dragging Jack Doohan and taking the place away. It's not been an easy time for Carlos Sainz. He's still working hard to discover the car, but that was a move for P15.
Good descent from Behrman. Full credit for just at some point sending it and seeing if it would stick. He's still within a second of Lance Stroll, and they're still going on those hard tyres. So heading towards a one-stopper. Leclerc now 7/10 from Russell. And the fact that Behrman and Stroll are able to push and push and push, not chew through these hards, I think is interesting for all these guys to know that actually we don't have to be so shackled as we were in that first stint. We can go and attack a bit more because the tyre's just more robust.
Yeah, as you wear the tyre down and take away some gauge, as it's more about making sure you're not getting any graining. Well, you lose the amount of rubber that's there, and therefore you reduce the chances of creating that graining. So it's definitely working well for them at this stage, as we see Charles Leclerc ever close to George Russell. But with Russell having such good traction off of that 11, 12, 13 onto the back straight, DRS not as effective here as we've seen at other racetracks.
No, Leclerc's closer than he has been so far through the middle sector. Just looking at the attitude of the cars from outside of the commentary box, sweeping through the high speed. You can see the hustle going on from the cockpit because he has to stay close in this part of the circuit. They're through the high speed now, into the left-hander. at 11. Now we're in 12, where Charles been better than Lewis, but it turns out that George Russell is doing a better job than Leclerc, and I think he clonked the curb there and lost a bit of drive.
Yeah, that definitely would have unsettled the car, but visually you can see just how good that Mercedes is. I would call that a sort of, medium speed transition corner.
Well, then let's take some action.
Yeah, we're on it, Ollie.
Well, he's looking for a pit stop.
He is indeed. And communicating really clearly with the team, doesn't want to look at the back of the Aston Martin rear wing anymore. Back to the battle at the front of the race. It's turning in to a 4-car battle at the front of the race. There goes Oscar Piastri. Here comes Lando Norris. Next up, George Russell, struggling in this phase of the race. But crucially, through turn 12 and 13, he has enough to keep Charles Leclerc at bay. At other parts of the circuit, you can see how close the Ferrari can get.
Tantalising for Leclerc through these first couple of corners. He attacks, he closes right up, but there's no way through really at that part. You've got to be alongside into the corner.
Behrman into the pits. He asked for the stop. He got the stop. And Stroll continues to run on that hard tyre on lap 27 of 56. Stroll just going on and on and on.
Yeah, that was a great stint from Ollie Behrman. And his answer has been, his question, has been answered. He's got a new set of the medium tyres now to go out and hit and exploit the performance, as it does look like Leclerc just unable to do anything. Russell managing that gap beautifully.
Hamilton being distanced still, 2.5 seconds back from his teammates. I think Ferrari are justified with the team orders. Certainly Leclerc putting more pressure on Russell than Hamilton could do in the first part of this race.
Well, to answer the question that you asked earlier about how is it transitioning teams, when I went from McLaren to Red Bull, I took my seat, I walked it out the door and handed it to Red Bull and said, that's my body shape, make it fit the car. And I had them buy the technology from McLaren for the steering wheel. So I had the same operating system and I had the same seat. It was then just about mechanical and downforce fuel. And so I minimized the transition. Lewis hasn't got that benefit. There's no way Mercedes is selling technology to Ferrari.
Fascinating insight. Red Bull were at a different stage, weren't they? They were entering Formula One, using all of his experience to help mould the team. It turned into the contenders that we know today, but that's fascinating, the processes that went on. You are on board with the man working the wheel for the Ferrari, lead Ferrari in the race. Charles Leclerc in 4th place, trying to take his place on the podium, currently occupied by George Russell.
Yeah, and that's beautiful images of just what it's like as the speed comes off the car. You come through 1 into 2, and those little snaps on the steering of correction, they're actually major moments for a race driver, aren't they?
Oh, you feel the car go light, you can feel it moving underneath you, and you just instinctively move the steering wheel just in small dabs of opposite lock to keep it pointing as neat and tidily straight as you possibly can. We've got to buckle up, guys. There might be a race on at the front here. Norris pitted 1 lap later than Piastri. He's just pumped in the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, 4 tenths quicker than his teammate. And he's going quicker again on this lap. So I think this is the charge now for Lando.
Yeah, well, that next stop that they'll have to make could be all-powerful. We've seen just the performance gain of what that undercut can give you on new tyres.
George Russell on the podium 1 week ago.
Okay, Lando, we'd like to use some of that pace, please. Yeah, but I don't want to just push into the DTO of Oscar again.
So, Will Joseph on the radio saying, you want to start pushing. That's not because McLaren want their 2 drivers to start scrapping out front. They want to clear away from the Russell-Leclerc battle as we get closer to a plausible second stop here to go to the end. They don't want to be undercut again, so that's why Norris is pushing up, and he doesn't really want to push up. He wants to stay away from his teammate for the moment.
Well, Charles Leclerc has justified the swap. That's the first thing to say. If you get your team to move a 7-time world champion out of the way, you better have the pace to do so. And he said it's a shame because he knows what he can do. He's closed into the DRS of George Russell, trying different lines into the hairpin of 14, trying to scare Russell off the road. We've seen plenty of errors when it's come to qualifying at the hairpin so far this week. Of course, the car's heavier with the fuel halfway through, and this is the rear view image of the Mercedes of George Russell, seeing Charles Leclerc in the wheel tracks, and we're checking in on the Alpine battle in the main picture further back in the field, currently out of the points.
Lance Stroll has just done his best lap of the race again on the hard tyre. He's 1.2 seconds away from Piastri out front.
And Lando, we've asked for the car ahead to help you.
aka Piastri, push on as well, and the two McLarens ditch third place together. I think there's some long-ranging one-stops to be had today. This hard tyre looks really decent, and I think you can attack on it and not churn through it as much as the fragile and medium.
Track temperature is 34 degrees, air temperature is 27. Crucially though, with this newly relayed circuit, all of the data gathered across the weekend was done in blazing hot sunshine, and the circuit currently in overcast conditions here at Shanghai International, the second race of the year. Gabriel Bortoletto has the fastest lap of the race. He's just taken on a new set of the hard tyres.
Leclerc falling away now from Russell. He had a big lurk at the inside a couple of laps ago at this corner, turn 14, and slewed into an oversteer and dropped back. Started to get a bit desperate, like Behrman on the back of Stroll, and he's just cooled it for a couple of laps.
Still close out front, isn't it? You've got Piastri managing the race, but Leclerc, well, only 7.8 seconds behind. As you say, it looks like he's just started to lose that battle with Russell, but it wouldn't take much for the McLarens if they had a tardy stop to suddenly be under pressure.
So Alex Albon is taking on the hard tyre. He's looking for 35 laps from that hard tyre. The maximum stint 1 year ago in cooler temperatures was 39. So they're asking a lot of the Pirelli rubber. That's the moment that's dropped Charles Leclerc back.
Yeah, that was the one from a long way back. He wasn't trying to pass, but he was just sending it to try something different to the apex, and caught an oversteer and fought the car all the way to the exit as well. Lost a bit of time, and the tyres wouldn't be thanking him for that either. I know I'm talking about Lance Stroll a lot, but I'm really impressed with how he's going here. Again, another lap of decent pace. Tsunoda's pitted and is only 2 tenths quicker than Stroll. So Stroll now has brought himself in from 14th on the grid into basically a genuine 7th place. He's jumped all of that midfield group by sticking solidly to a one-stopper. Everyone, I think, is going to have to stop again because they pitted so early, and Stroll will have to stop because he's mandated to use a medium at some point. Might be tricky for him in the second half, but I think he's done a great job so far.
Yeah, key point is the tyre he's about to take on will not be as durable as the one that he's run, and also no one in the field knew about how effective the hard tyre would be. Sometimes it works for you, sometimes it works against you. Trying the up and under, trying the pass and getting the pass done. Oliver Behrman, past Liam Lawson, the Haas gets by, and he's up to 60.
Another half a second, Lawson dives straight to the pit, so second stop for Liam Lawson. Started on the hard, bolted on a medium, presumably will go back to a hard to the end of the race. Norris another half a second, quicker than Piastri, 2.5 seconds back. Wonder how McLaren will manage this one out front, presumably with another pit stop to go.
Yeah, we're going to get even more information now as Liam Lawson goes out in that new set of hard tyres. I expect him to be able to surpass the fastest lap that Bortoletto did. As the cars get lighter later in the Grand Prix, track's rubbered in, and as you mentioned already, Alex, track temperature is stabilising and, if anything, going slightly down. But driving under a cloud actually just gives you performance. It just takes the heat off.
Leclerc's taking the heat off Russell. 2.2 seconds now, third to fourth.
This is Oliver Behrman. We're getting a replay of the British driver getting past the New Zealander, under braking at the hairpin, or at least the lap before he was there you go.
Ciao. Thanks for that, Lee.
And the man who was a Formula 4 champion in Italy, spent a lot of time out there. He's got his dad David in attendance as well, enjoying that move.
Yeah, look at that. He's got all the screens available to him in the garage, but he's still relying on his F1 app feed on his mobile phone.
Here are the two McLarens. We've seen so much action so far this weekend. Oscar Piastri getting a maiden Grand Prix pole position. 2 qualifying sessions, 2 errors for Lando Norris so far this weekend. Lewis Hamilton getting his first win of any description with Ferrari, and yet McLaren were expected to be the form team. McLaren have the race lead. Piastri's been given the hurry up because they want to try and extend the gap away from George Russell in third. He had a difficult couple of laps, crucially no errors for George Russell. He was trying to repeat what he did in the opening Grand Prix of the year and finish in third position. It's now 2.1 seconds between Russell and Charles Leclerc. Hamilton will be on the phone to ask for that place back if that remains the case. Leclerc was unleashed, had good pace at the start. We're going to go back. Oh, you can see getting the outwash of the car in front, getting the dirty air and dropping back on board there, Ollie Behrman.
Plan C. Well, can you tell him to just speed up a little bit, because I'm in the dirty air and on my tyres.
Use my tyres, I guess is that word that we speak to. Lando Norris knows there's a key moment coming. He's the World Championship leader by 2 points over Max Verstappen, who just does not have the performance in the Red Bull. That isn't always a given. That is what we saw in Melbourne, that is what we've seen in Shanghai, but these are back-to-backs. They're what we call flyaway races. Red Bull will be trying to understand that tyre life intently. Norris will want to maximise the advantage that McLaren have at the start of the year. Take two again. This is Oliver Behrman pushing on, fresher rubber, trying his favoured move. He is enjoying the superior traction on that long first stint, and he powers by. Behrman gets a round of applause from his American team. He's up to P15.
It's a lot of fun when you have new, fresh, softer tyres than your competition, and you can just pick them off like that, inside or outside, into the corner or out of the corner. Just nothing that Doohan could do to keep Behrman behind.
Yeah, you're right. It is a lot of fun. He's getting the payback for that long first stint. Still a little bit shy of the points, so as we go on board with Liam Lawson, again, getting the benefit of those fresher tyres, so he'll get the pass on the brakes, fairly straightforward.
Yeah, new hards, wasn't it, for Lawson? Pitted a couple of laps ago, making his way past Nico Hulkenberg, who had the contact on the opening lap. I'm interested in Norris. There's a fascinating dynamic here. The two McLarens spread out by not very much, but Lando actually wants his teammate to stay a good amount of time ahead of him. He's more worried about covering off Russell, and the Mercedes, you can see back of shot, that is dropping away now with every lap. But it seems like they're covering off their 1-2 rather than Lando really wanting to go and press Oscar.
So far, the hard looks like it's robust. George behind has been told he's going to the end.
Okay, well, we will find out in time whether that is another one of the sort of great pretenders, or whether he can factually do that. But I agree with you, Julian. It's like, why would Norris not be wanting to do everything he can to put Piastri under pressure? This is, yeah, a long season, a long game. Second's still a good result, but you're in it to win it.
Yeah, he wants to keep the tyres alive, is the reason he's not going there. But behind all that, you're wondering why he's not trying to get more pressure on Oscar and risk a little bit more the gap to Mercedes behind.
Hadjar making a stop. It was 2.5 seconds in length. Russell is trying to take that hard tyre if he does go to the end. He's trying to take it an enormous way. If you consider that he stopped before lap 20 in this race, it would be a very long way to take that hard tyre.
Yeah, it's almost like Stroll in 7th has forgotten where the pit in is. He's been out there for so long.
He's doing an amazing job. He is the guinea pig for everyone on the hard right now.
Right, this phase of the race is just a bit about patience. Then if we've got fuel and stuff later, we can have a go.
So that is Team Norris talking about how to manage this part of the race, cover off Russell from a potential one stop, and then go and attack Team Piastri, two sides of the McLaren garage. And that is then Will Joseph on the radio once again to Lando, which gives us an insight then into why Lando doesn't want to close up just yet, because they're in this position in 1-2 where Russell's not out of this. Leclerc's still 2.5 seconds back from George as well. So they don't want to start to chew through their tyres racing each other, have to pit again, and then Russell does a Spa last year and comes in and wins the race from nowhere.
I was going to reference that. He didn't keep the win, George Russell, but he did make an audacious strategy work, and he was just underweight. He was the first Grand Prix winner to be disqualified in 30 years, but the others would have a massive pace advantage.
Yeah, so you got a Spa last year and you got a Monza last year, where the McLarens were running at the front, and Leclerc won the race by not pitting, and those are the two just behind, and they got previous for this, so McLaren have got to still control this one for the moment.
Weather update. Small risk of rain, last 3 laps up to class 1.
Well, if Lando doesn't like hearing it, imagine how Oscar Piastri feels in the race lead after what happened in Melbourne 1 week ago when a rain shower changed everything late on.
Well, I've got to assume that more than just radar, they've got someone upwind that's feeling usually a man with no hair, and he's feeling a few drops of rain on his head. But anyway, that's a few laps off. Meanwhile, right now, what it highlights is one of the great challenges for Formula One teams. You want the two best drivers you can have in your cars, but inevitably, when you get yourself a championship car, and that's everything we expect McLaren is right now, you've got that inter-team battle will have to raise its head at a certain point. You know, there's never going to be a whole season of smashing and nicey. When was the last time we saw that? Maybe Mercedes with Nico Rosberg, Lewis Hamilton.
They had a car advantage there at the time, didn't they? That's not like we've got now.
Another lovely late-breaking move from Oliver Behrman, who's making his way through the traffic. He's operating about a second faster than Lance Stroll on that old hard tyre, so that medium is giving him the advantage at the moment. He's passing cars as well. Behrman checking the mirror and seeing Carlos Sainz in it, and he's firing up another message on the radio. Sonoda's come in, and the unknown of the hard tyre could play a huge part in the major places of this Grand Prix. Not only that, all the way through the order.
So Sonoda covers off his teammate. This is for the fringes of the top 10 when it all plays out. And I think that'll be the cue for Stroll to finally get to the pits, because he was a couple of seconds ahead of Yuki. He may well lose this one, because Sonoda, if he hammers this on an outlap, has got a great chance to undercut Lance Stroll. It might be time for his medium.
Yeah, this is a good performance, and he's, well, you mentioned earlier, first race start in a Grand Prix from Hadjar, to come out and be that close to his more experienced teammate. Racing Bulls having a strong start to the season.
Very strong start to the campaign. They will look to try and keep it going. We've seen them start well in the past, and the performance has fallen away. They've got a new hub at Milton Keynes in the UK, where they are sharing a campus with the senior team, with Red Bull Racing, trying to go on a recruitment drive to get all the knowledge possible, try and fire themselves up the order. And you have Yuki Tsunoda leading Isaac Hadjar on track, separated by 1.6 seconds at the moment, as this stint just gets longer and longer with the unexpectedly strong performance of the hard tyre.
Good pace now, Max. Better late than never. 20 laps remaining. Come on.
Yeah, he's closing that gap down to Hamilton, and that tells me they're going for it.
Stroll has finally made his stop, so one of his most enjoyable stints in his entire career, I suspect. He was able to get great performance out of that car. He now journeys to the medium. He'll hope it holds together out there as it continues to get darker and darker outside our commentary box.
He stayed ahead of Sonoda as well. So fantastic drive from Stroll. Keeps him in a net 7th place in this Grand Prix. Aston Martin calling this beautifully. And I think you've just got to try and go to the end. If you're these front runners, if you take a pit stop, you might not get the reward. It doesn't look like these hard tyres are finding a cliff at all.
No, that's exactly what I took from that message, GP to Verstappen. 20 laps remaining. That didn't sound like 20 laps plus a stop. That sounded like, right, take the pace you've got from these tyres.
A complete contrast to what we saw earlier on. It was widely expected to be a two-stop.
Ferrari are getting ready. Is Hamilton going to peel in? Yes, he does. So Verstappen's released up into 5th place, and Hamilton is the first of the front runners to take a two-stop.
So Hamilton goes to the fresher rubber, doesn't have the performance on the hard tyre, and will look to try and take on the medium and attack further on. He will have superb pace as he moves on.
You said a hard
tyres,
yeah. But he'll just hammer that out now to the end of the race. 18 qualifying laps, I think he can do on that. And that will put pressure on Leclerc, Russell, Norris and Piastri, because if their tyres do fall away, then Hamilton can put in a juicy undercut now. So they've all got to make a decision pretty much now as to whether they're going to let Hamilton undercut them or just hang on for a really long one-stop.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel, though, that we're in a situation with the Pirellis on this day in history where they're sort of getting ever closer to a cliff. Remember, years ago when we first came here, the Pirellis in the last couple of laps, they hit the cliff and that was it. There was nothing left. This feels like the one-stopper is possible.
Continuing on, but Lewis Hamilton will have the fresh hard tyre. He's gone for the more durable rubber. Just seems to be a more effective tyre for many in the field, but the medium is nominally quicker. A huge amount of laps left in the Grand Prix. Fascinated they decided to go that way and not for the nominally faster tyre, but that's the one they've gone for.
Lando, from what we can see, our front left is a little bit worse than Oscar and Russell.
Yeah, I see the first little bits of graining, but it feels okay for now still.
Okay, let's just be patient still, all right?
Interesting that the graining is coming later on that tyre. Normally when you've got the sort of gauge worn down a little bit, it's cleaning up rather than opening out. So maybe it's a case that they're struggling to keep the temperature in that compound.
Graining normally is when you're falling outside of a perfect operating window, so then you start sliding the tyre.
Oliver Behrman once again to the apex first. He's having a party on these mediums, and he's trying to use them. Of course, they'll be degrading all the time, and Gasly doesn't want to give up the place. Very, very tight line into the final corner for Gasly is going to mean that he's vulnerable to turn number 1.
Yeah, well, he was all queued up to do ciao, and then he had to do bonjour. I know it's different languages, but I don't know what hello is in Italian. Is it the same? Is it ciao for both?
Let's see whether he is able.
That's the beauty of it. It works either way, doesn't it? You make it stick or not.
Wasn't able to get by into the first turn and takes another lap in the dirty air of Gasly. But it's a crucial moment for Behrman. He's trying to improve to the points.
How's the tyre, Oscar? Can we do plan A? I think we can go to the end.
Awesome. And how awesome would it be if we had Gasly and came on the radio and said, au revoir?
He's trying to maintain the position at the moment. Alex Albon, who went for that one stop and was hugely confident in what he was able to do earlier on, occupying 9th position. He's 3 seconds off the back of Kimi Antonelli at the moment, but he's going half a second quicker than the Mercedes driver. Alex Albon talking a good game on the radio and backing it up as well.
Yeah, massive difference a day makes for Williams. Struggled, dropped out of the top 10 yesterday. Sainz took a pit stop in the sprint because they couldn't understand why the car was degrading so much. Changed a lot of it for qualifying yesterday. Got into the top 10 and having an even better race. Behrman to the outside of Pierre Gasly, going again for it. Up and under on the exit, squeeze on the throttle with fresher tyres, but he's on the outside again for the final corner.
So he's not getting the same burst of traction on the medium tyre as he made his way out. Let's see if he can be braver on his way down. Pulls out of the slipstream, didn't know when he was going to be able to, and straight by this time. So Behrman attacking, and Behrman finding his way past the Alpine up to 10th position. A really attacking drive from the man who started in 17th.
Give us a ciao.
Yeah, this is a great drive, isn't it? He's loving it. And when you find a window of performance, your confidence grows, and you just feel you can put the car anywhere on the racetrack.
So Hamilton pitted for a second stop. He's done the fastest lap. He's only 6/10 quicker than Verstappen. He's now 19.5 seconds back from Max. The second stop doesn't look like the one.
The fresher hard tyre is going to give you an advantage of about 6-7 tenths. The fresher medium would give you, in the immediate laps, a second. That's a replay of heading into the first turn with Oliver Behrman as he climbed into the points.
Yeah, great Grand Prix. Well appreciated by his father there. Yeah, of course, we can all understand that emotion. So the question is, if this tyre holds on without any big drop-off in performance, then I think for Hamilton, there just isn't going to be enough laps.
There's not. Not at this rate. He was coming under pressure from Verstappen anyway, so maybe the way that he was going in that middle stint, it would have been passed if he stayed out, and so they've chanced their arm to try and shuffle the pack further ahead, but basically no one's copied him, and so he needs the others to start running into tyre trouble before the end of this one to make this one work.
A wonderful composure and really building a massive gap in the sprint race to take victory. Nice moment for Hamilton after the difficulties of Melbourne. He now has, as you would expect, the fastest lap. No bonus point for the fastest lap anymore in Formula One, but the race has turned to a one-stop. George Russell said that earlier, and then they brought him in very, very early in the Grand Prix to get him onto that hard tyre. It's an intriguing run if you consider what others like Alex Albon were able to do.
There's a very twitchy Racing Bull strategist on the pit wall right now. 7th and 8th, fighting with Stroll, and now they're 15th and 16th, and realising that actually one stop might be the way. So I said that I thought Stroll was in contention for a top 7 here, but I don't think anyone ahead of him is going to pit, so if he's got to do it, he's going to have to use those fresh mediums to get back to everyone ahead.
And ironically, all the great work he did on that tyre alerted everyone else to stay out.
Yeah, that's exactly what has been the case, where historical data is of interest, but there's nothing like the data on the day. And right now you'd be saying Racing Bulls, it would have maybe been good to split those cars given their strong qualifying.
Yeah, this will be an absolute nightmare result for them. Qualified both cars in the top 10. Tsunoda could have been on a par with Verstappen. He was that quick. Lost points in Melbourne from a position where they were absolutely flying and up there with the Ferraris, and unless those cars ahead have big drop-offs, it's heading that way again.
This is top pace now, Max. Keep going.
They are loving what they're seeing on the Red Bull pit wall from Max Verstappen, who finds himself putting Charles Leclerc under pressure. He was 0.4 of a second quicker on the last lap. He's now 3.8 seconds away. Every point he can claw back, so important for the World Championship. He won his 4th title by turning 6th places into podium finishes. That's how he was able to keep the superior McLaren at bay. McLaren were the Constructors' title winners last year. He was the Drivers' champion. He will be sniffing an opportunity. Anything he can do to minimise the damage, vital. This is a long, long campaign.
Yeah, it's further 0.3 quicker in the first couple of sectors than Leclerc, and he'll be able to start sniffing the fumes of that Ferrari anytime soon.
Remember, Leclerc, a dozen laps or so ago now, was right on the back of Russell, putting all the pressure on, but didn't make it through. And now George has got that comfort zone of 5 seconds, pretty much what he's behind Norris in second. Russell's ahead of Leclerc, and it does look like the Ferrari have gone from being the big threat on paper today after what they had in the sprint, Hamilton coasting to victory, to actually being the worst on their tyres of the top 4 teams today.
McLaren running 1 and 2. George Russell finding himself 5 seconds back on the McLaren pair, looking for back-to-back podiums. Charles Leclerc looking to minimise the tyre slip angle, the wheel spin effectively of his Ferrari, and keep Max Verstappen behind Lewis Hamilton. Clearly the Ferrari projection said they were in trouble up against the Red Bull. He's gone for another stop, and here's a move to the inside and roaring through. Lance Stroll up to 12th.
Heading back towards the points that he's been occupying for so long on that reverse one-stopper for Stroll. Remember Behrman lunging him about a dozen laps ago as well? Well, Behrman jumped him by virtue of going onto that medium tyre, and he's been roaring through the field. Stroll trying to do the same, and they're having their own little battle, both on fresher tyres. Behrman 10th, Stroll 12th. Gasly, who was a bit of a problem pass for Ollie Behrman, the one in the middle of those two.
Yeah, it's the end is in sight. 13 or so racing laps.
How good has Piastri been today as well? Number one, just driving a nice race in the clear air out front, but I love the communication. Just crystal clear. I think we can go to the end. So if you're Tom Stallard, race engineer, you then know, okay, well, let's just hold on to that. That's all the information I need. He's driving to that out front. He's in control. And now he's opening the gap up as well to Lando. 4.5 seconds and 0.6 quicker on the last lap.
Just keep it up, Max. See everybody trying to hang it out now. Don't know what can happen at the end.
I think that sums it up perfectly. We can all be sort of Monday experts when we had the chance to reflect on how the race has played out, but they're living this real time for the first time. They're all assuming, when they went into this race, they assumed it was more likely to be the two-stop. You highlighted the fact it's cooler conditions. Track's rubbered in. There's been a lot of track action here with support races. Sometimes we're at tracks where there isn't any other support race action. And yeah, the circuit's just started to be kind to the tyres.
Oscar Piastri looking for his 3rd career win, has a 4.7 second advantage over Lando Norris. He'll be ruining those errors in qualifying. George Russell was trying to coax the car to a back-to-back 3rd place. Max Verstappen, engineer GP on the radio there, saying, don't know what could happen. And I think probably the reason he's mentioning that is Pirelli have been increasing the tyre pressures all the way through the weekend, effectively pumping up the tyres to make sure that they can do the distance that they tell the teams that they can, making sure that they structurally are in the right condition for the end of the race. And so he's given his driver a bit of encouragement there on the basis that these hard tyres, I don't think anyone expected to stop around the lap 15 mark and take hard tyres to the end, but that is exactly what they're going to do, and that is effectively an unknown.
We're losing some time in turn 2. Maybe try one lap without using the curb. Nope.
Okay, thanks for the suggestion. Charles Leclerc says no. It's a tricky one, isn't it, for a race engineer to try. You can give advice on whether you're losing by carrying too much speed in or, you know, whatever, but not enough speed in the mid-corner. But in terms of track positioning with the car, that's a brave engineer. He wasn't fully committed when he was suggesting it, was he?
I was expecting that response as well. To try and engineer tell you to use a different line is something else rather than just the pure fact of brake later or get on the throttle or there's a certain area, but just try changing the racing line you've been doing for 45 laps in this Grand Prix is something else.
Yeah, I remember my engineer telling me that now's the time to push. And the radio said, oh, there's a good idea. Shall we push? I was pushing already.
It can be a brutal job sometimes when you've got the driver coming back on the radio, providing a response. Charles Leclerc
knows that he's in a battle with Max Verstappen. He knows that one lock-up, one issue, one wide moment, and the world champion would be right there.
Weather update, possible class a half on the last lap only.
Class a half is between no rain and a bit of drizzle.
I wouldn't tell him that with 10 laps to go. I think I'd keep him in the zone and don't start to get your race-leading driver jittery about the chance of rain. When it gets a bit closer, possibly, but we're still 10 laps away, and the class a half is pretty meaningless.
Also, I'd rather not know that we're going to be doing the wrap-up to the Formula 1 Grand Prix standing under an umbrella.
Yeah, agreed. Getting very, very tight there between Hadjar and Doohan. That was at the hairpin. Doohan still ahead. Hadjar trying to go the long way round, and both of them going deep. They remain in 15th and 16th positions, and the difficult day
front wing's damaged. Drop down, you see front wing end plate.
Yeah. And it's not the end, it's the element, isn't it? The actual flap of the top element, and Tsunoda finds himself with, and surely that's going to break clear of the course of this lap.
But it definitely is not going to give him a performance advantage like we've seen from Leclerc. That is like an air brake.
Day gets worse for Racing Bulls, doesn't it? Already the strategy has given their drivers so much to do. Don't know how Tsunoda's picked that up. Was okay. He was trying to get up to the back of Sainz. Was very close to the back of Sainz coming into turn 1. I think he didn't touch him, did he?
Well, not that we've seen. And I'm sure if it is the case, we'll get a replay of that pretty soon. But you see him just falling away.
Yeah, he's done there, isn't he? That is going to be the end of Yuki's chance, and another weekend going begging for him. At least he got something in the sprint. So that's Hadjar and Doohan. That's Doohan just defending all the way towards the exit there, and Hadjar losing out and running wide. No contact there, and Hadjar still going. Doohan's now going to clear Tsunoda, and Yuki surely will be called into the pits.
Doohan gets by Yuki Tsunoda. Of course, if he does lose that element from the front wing, it could go under his wheel, send him off the road. The Racing Bulls swap over, and what could have been an opportunity to take a 7th place in this Grand Prix is going to be pointless, it appears, for the Racing Bulls. Into the pits comes Tsunoda. Sorry, David.
They're squandering all manner of points at the start of the year with the car they've got.
Wait, front wing damage from what?
We're wondering the same. We haven't seen it yet.
It looks like, unless it's been struck by something else, some debris off the back of another car, difficult to see. It may just be a straightforward wing failure.
I think it is that. I think it isn't contact with Sainz ahead. That's not been reported back. And now they take off the front wing. What an opportunity missed by Racing Bulls. This one will hurt back in Faenza. Tsunoda will be back into the race, but way down the order. He's the last of the runners.
Well, it gives an opportunity. Is this us going to see where that damage happened? Ah, yeah, look, it's just through the turbulent air of the car in front. It's built a frequency in that front wing, which I saw it fail. And, well, you go through all sorts of crash testing ahead of putting your car on the racetrack, but the only way you really find out how it performs is in close combat.
You see the vibration and a bit of flex in the other side of that as he was going through. As the load builds up, you've got such a rush of airflow over these parts.
My brake pedal's going a bit long. Yeah, the brake pedal's gone a lot longer. So it's been going long the whole time. We see it has steps, yes. Yeah, now it's a lot longer. Like I would say if it's slightly bigger. No, I don't. Not longer. I know, mate.
Getting a bit fraught on the radio between driver and engineer there. Norris doesn't have a massive margin over George Russell if he has an issue with the brakes.
He's about to do his best lap of the race, so he's managing it pretty nicely.
Yeah, look, you never enjoy brake pedals going long. It's part of this modern Formula One with the brake-by-wire that there is you could say a longer movement and travel in the pedal. But this is a high-energy braking circuit down into 14 especially. And it just puts a doubt in your mind, doesn't it? If the pedal's getting longer, you think, is everything okay there?
Yeah, well, Fernando Alonso retired very early on with a brake issue, didn't he? That you're putting a lot of energy through at turns 14, turn 6 as well, but in between there are really long runs where the brakes cool down as the speed builds up as well.
So, lad, I know this is boring, so it's not the brake power that's changing, it's just the pedal that's going longer.
Okay, yeah, you can still decelerate the same, but just the feeling from the brake pedal is different, and I hate that. You want to have for me, a pretty rock-hard brake pedal, so you can smash it with a load of force with your left leg and feel the deceleration hit immediately. When you have a sponginess there, it's just disconcerting.
Charles Leclerc is going to come under real pressure from Max Verstappen. There's the evidence in front of you. Oh, that was a late chop. As we see Hadjar and Doohan continue to do battle, and Doohan stays ahead. The Australian driver leads the Frenchman, and still he's got 14th position, but 2.2 seconds now between Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, that race is on as we look back from Doohan's car. Doohan racing for his career.
Oh, a little bit of a move to the middle again, coming into the first corner. Hadjar trying to hang it. It's a long way round at the first couple of corners, and he's not made it through there. This is helping his teammate as well, because Gasly is 11th up the road. Hadjar's on much fresher tyres, and in theory could go hunting for the sprint of the points. I don't think he can with that second stop, in truth. Doing everything he can.
So, Lando, the brake pedal will continue to get long. How big's the issue? It'll get like half a mil longer per lap.
So describe that sensation.
It is deeply uncomfortable. Half a millimetre is, it's a huge amount in racing terms. You do a front right height adjustment by half a millimetre, you feel the load, you feel the increase or decrease in which way you go in the car. The brake pedal, it's the other great sort of gauge of where you are in terms of performance on the racetrack, the deceleration, that you've got to have that confidence that Jolene's just described there. When you hit the pedal, it is your best friend in the world, and if it's starting to go away from you, well, it starts to feel like a distant friend.
But it's potentially getting to the floor. So it's getting worse. Basically, the front circuit will maintain pressure, the rear will lose, but you'll still get brake power. So you just have to be really cautious on the brakes, no risk. Yeah, but a lot quicker than...
Hadjar and Doohan are continuing to scrap in the left-hand side of your picture, and Jack Doohan has got a 10-second time penalty for forcing Hadjar off the road. They continue to fight, but on the timing page, Hadjar will be up the road by 10 seconds if they cross the line in this order.
Yeah, that was that scrap at turn 14 a while ago now. Frustrating. Hadjar went to the outside there. Doohan released the brakes and forced him off.
Hey, moving so late, man. Copy, is it the investigation?
Yeah, message obviously has been surpassed by the information from the stewards.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of those moves as well. One on the back straight and one on the front straight. They're doing just jinking slightly as Hadjar was getting close. Isaac not particularly happy with that.
Confirmation of that 10-second time penalty for Jack Doohan for forcing Hadjar off the road at the hairpin.
So Lando, we see you're quick. This is one of those things we discussed with Conley's over the year. I'd rather finish second than not at all. No hard break.
So Norris is 7 seconds clear of Russell. There's 5 laps to go. He can bring this home if he wants, but now is the time that he's been preparing for all race to launch that attack, which he was promised a while ago by his engineer he'd be able to do. But now is the time that he's got this reliability concern as well. So McLaren are trying to manage expectations. Lando wants to go hunting the win, but there's obviously this reliability risk, and with the brake pedal, I never liked that from the cockpit as well. So there's a lot going on here.
DC, can you understand why the team have issued that call to Lando Norris, their lead driver in contention for the World Championship?
Yeah, absolutely. They've got an issue with those brakes. The only way now to maximise points for the team.
9. That's where all the game is. 4 tenths.
Yeah, I know. You talking about 10 or 15 times. I know.
The disdain on the radio now.
He's so sassy with Brian Bozzi compared to what we used to hear with his old engineer. 2.9 seconds, 2.8 seconds for the top two. Between 4th and 5th, 4/10 of a second. Between Charles Leclerc, who was told where he was losing time, and now darting around trying to minimise the damage. Max Verstappen trying to claim 4th.
Yeah, it may sound tough from Leclerc to his engineer, but we're often toughest than those we love the most. And he knows that he's basically not going to be able to defend against Max. It's been a great Grand Prix considering the damage he's had, but in the end, I think with 4 laps to go, there's just too much pace in that Red Bull.
Pretty underwhelming Grand Prix for Ferrari generally, isn't it? Hamilton's second stop dragging him out of any contention. He's never getting back to the back of this battle, and Leclerc now defending from Verstappen, who's been having a very quiet Grand Prix all the way through for 52 laps. Now looks like he wants to pick up another couple of points.
Personal best middle sector of the entire Grand Prix for Oscar Piastri. Taking those hard tyres all the way to the end, the fuel burning off, and he's trying to keep that gap at around 3 seconds to his teammate in the hope that his shoulders will drop and effectively the fight will be called off.
And for McLaren, calling Norris off is a double win, isn't it? Firstly, the reliability concerns. Secondly, they don't come together on track. And it's a nice way of having team orders, really, with the reliability as a sort of shield for that.
Lando Norris led the World Championship by 2 points coming into this race by losing a few in the sprint to Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen finished in 3rd. Norris really struggled, only got the final point in 8th after a tough qualifying session. Norris wants every point he can get, but Piastri wants to be a contender for this World Championship. You are looking at the current World Champion. We're on board. Nose cam as he tries to go the long way round to turn the outside line into the inside line. Leclerc knew he was trying to do that, and he roars around the outside. Does he get the place? He does! 4th position for Max Verstappen in the final stages of the race.
Yeah, look, that's a beautiful pass, no question about it. As Charles comes back.
Can they make their way through turn number 6? They've got away with that one. That was super late on the brakes. For the man from Monaco, they're not separated by much, but the place now belongs to Verstappen.
Well, firstly, an incredible move from Max at turn 3. Round the outsider there is something special. Don't think I've seen that before. Presumably Leclerc was busy trying to get the exit, which he then had. Secondly, there's quite a big move on the braking then from Max, just diving straight to the inside to cut off the Ferrari.
Yeah, so this is something you could imagine, but it's never actually been played out, Julian. I think you're right. We've not seen this before. We've got much better drive off too, and then drop down the hill. Leclerc compromised on line, had to guarantee get to the apex, and in the end, just didn't have the speed.
Yeah, you just wouldn't expect that pass around the outside of 3. It's never in contention for an overtake. Normally, you got the inside maybe, but to sweep all the way around the outside, haven't seen it, and Leclerc wouldn't have been ready for it, but then he fancied the lunge back, because he's got nothing to lose now. Hamilton's miles away, so he had a dive back, and Max reacted to that one very late.
Yeah, and let's just remind ourselves, these guys are sitting in that cockpit. They only can kind of tell where the other cars are based on those little mirrors that are hanging out the side of the cockpit. We get this amazing view, but they're living on their instincts, and as Max cut to the right-hand side of Leclerc, he would go out of his mirror line.
If Lando Norris is limiting his brake pressure, he he's still very quick doing so. Just set his personal best of the entire Grand Prix so far. His first sector was much quicker than Oscar Piastri, considering it's only 25 seconds. He was 0.3 quicker through the first part of the lap, but in the middle part of the lap, Piastri responds and gets the gap out to 3.1. On board with Isaac Hadjar as we check in with our rookies. These are our 6 full-season rookies in the 2025 campaign.
I do a bit of a shout out.
Please do.
For Haas, who have turned it around, haven't they? In 1 week, back row of the grid, Behrman in the wars, as Hadjar has another look at the back of the
Look at the speed going into turn number 1. Can he manage to turn that long line into the inside? He's trying to do a Verstappen. It's not for the points, it just looked fantastic when we were on board.
That shows you how hard the Verstappen move is as well. But Haas, Ocon is driving an absolute blinder here, up in 7th, and Behrman's got himself back into the top 10 as well. Stroll's not made inroads on that medium tyre, so Haas has really turned this around and look like they're going to get a big haul of points today.
Up 4 places for Esteban Ocon to 7th, up 7 places to the last points paying position for Oliver Behrman.
Yeah, this is a big weekend for Haas. You've got to take the points when they come along, and strategically they've played a blinder and some great passing from Behrman.
They were so downbeat last week as well. Didn't realise they were going to be as bad as they were in Melbourne. Made some setup changes and it's brought the car to life.
The brake situation has been getting critical. Yeah, I think the pedal's going flat.
He was still setting personal bests about a minute ago. He's saying the pedal's going flat. He's now dropped back to 5 seconds back, so he has eventually conceded defeat. Oscar Piastri, if the reliability remains the same, is going to claim his 3rd Grand Prix win. Lando Norris will just try and bring it home to the flag. He's got a sizable advantage over George Russell by 7 seconds heading in to the final stages. Oscar Piastri's got 2 corners and 1 lap to go. We're focusing on what has been a ferocious battle, but it's a battle out of the points. Piastri is at the hairpin as the racing ball continues to fight the Alpine, but remember, Doohan has a 10-second penalty.
But Hamilton is within 6 seconds of his teammate, running 2 seconds faster on that last lap where Leclerc was having the battle with Verstappen. So will Hamilton get a little bit of joy of having done that extra stop by getting right with his teammate?
7 seconds off the back of Piastri now. Norris really struggling. Clearly, it was 2.8 a few moments ago. Can Russell put the pressure on the final lap of the race?
There's only a couple of corners that are big stops around this circuit. One is coming up now. If they stay on board with Lando up towards turn 6, that's where you want to apply a load of brake pressure. And he's lifting right off it.
Yeah, he is. That is mission critical. It's so uncomfortable, isn't it? The driver, you know you've got an issue with the brakes, especially when you know you're being hunted down by Russell.
Well, at some point, they might not work at all, in which case you're heading to the barriers.
Still got turn 14. That's the critical one for Lando Norris. He is going to have to rely on the brakes. His teammate is scampered clear. Oscar Piastri will forget all about the rain. Spinning off at turn 13. He is on his way to a 3rd career win. He's left his teammate behind. Maiden Grand Prix pole yesterday, and just his 3rd victory when it comes to this. Norris has a critical test. It will be so important, but we are watching the man from Melbourne head into the final corners. Then it's his teammate Lando Norris, and then it's George Russell. After the misery of Melbourne, Oscar Piastri was consumed with rage. You are watching his emphatic response. A driver who will not wait his turn. For Piastri, the time is now. Oscar Piastri wins the Chinese Grand Prix for only his 3rd Grand Prix victory. And Lando Norris nurses home the McLaren. He might not have a brake pedal left, but he's got 2nd place. George Russell got within 1.3 seconds of Norris. He completes the podium. But for our winner, Oscar Piastri, it's despair to joy in the space of 7 days. Lewis Hamilton comes home in 6th position. Charles Leclerc in 5th. And McLaren have won the opening 2 Grand Prix of the year. But it never seems simple.
Great drive from Piastri. From his point of view, it might have been more simple. I think the 2nd place for Lando there just crept in ahead of Russell. Brilliant weekend for Piastri. Led the team this weekend, second in the sprint, 2 laps good enough for pole, his first ever pole. I would describe that as a consummate drive.
Yeah, it's been a brilliant weekend of Grand Prix racing, I would say, with Hamilton in the sprint, Oscar bringing back what was the disappointment of Melbourne. The racing continues here to the final corner.
And these two can't be separated until we apply the penalty. Doohan with all the defence, Hadjar with all the effort, apply the 10 seconds. And it's Hadjar who finishes in 14th on a day of what might have been for the Racing Bulls team. But it's Piastri on top.
Well done, Oscar. Great drive. Really good. Great job, mate. And it's a 1-2 for the team.
Yeah, mega job, guys. Mega job. Thank you very much. Car was very lovely. And yeah, good work on reacting with the deck. So great team effort. And that is one satisfying weekend. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Super cool. It may only be, his third Grand Prix victory, but he just seems so contained, so professional.
Even when he does scream with delight, he only tells us about it. He does not do it on the radio. That will be proper satisfaction for Piastri to take pole and convert it into the win.
Well done, mate. Well done. Sorry about that. For the brake pedal.
Yeah, well done, boys. Beautiful one, Steve.
Good drive from Norris as well. I think putting the pressure on there, we didn't see the straight fight that we hoped we would at the end, but McLaren won too, and banking the points whilst they do obviously have the fastest car at the moment. Norris hasn't had the easiest of weekends. He said that this track wasn't going to suit him as much as some others coming up, and I think he'll be very happy still with second.
2 contenders for the title, maybe more. Norris has taken a Grand Prix victory. Also, Piastri has taken a Grand Prix victory. Hamilton's taken the sprint. 3 races so far to start 2025. 3 different winners. And driver of the day, the man who I don't think we saw a lot of, but clearly quite a lot of fans out there, Kimi Antonelli, who came home where he started in 8th. Congratulations to Esteban Ocon, who climbed 4 places to 7th. Behrman, who climbed up to 10th position, 7 places from where he started in the Grand Prix, and the ever-confident Alex Albon, who returns his Williams to the points.
Yeah, well, the fans have spoken if they think Antonelli was the driver of the day, but I think Piastri could definitely have been a contender for that. Ocon, what a great one for Haas.
Yeah, his first points for the American team, and Oscar Piastri out of the car as a Grand Prix winner, took the pole, took the win. It was Lando Norris who that applied to in Melbourne a week on. Oscar Piastri finds his way to the top step of the podium. He said he needed the hairpin of his life to take his first pole, and it was a calm, cool drive, just like the man himself, to the flag. George Russell back-to-back 3rd places. That Mercedes doesn't have the pace, but he is scoring good points and podiums along the way as he hopes to try and force an error. In the end, only 1.3 seconds away from Norris with that brake issue.
Russell's driving great as well, isn't he? At the start of this year, solidly ahead of Antonelli, the rookie. We didn't know what to expect of Kimi. He's basically in line with what Mercedes thought, but Russell has definitely stepped into that team leader role, and it's just very consistent, constantly getting himself in the top 3 and another haul of points. Little quirk, if Gasly had found one more position there, all 10 teams will have scored points in the first 2 Grand Prix weekends.
Hawkeye Palmer there. Hawkeye the new Palmer.
It shows how up and down it is, isn't it?
Since lap 38 as well. He's been desperate to get that one out. It definitely shows how competitive it is. Formula One has rarely been like this. It means you have to put things together, and the strategists at Haas will be delighted. They're not as happy as Zach Brown and Oscar Piastri.
Well, these are the moments that race teams dream of. 1-2s, even in a winning car, even with the best car.
George Russell photo bombing.
These guys have been racing each other since karting, haven't they? So this goes back to their childhood.
And it's nice, I think, to have 2 happy drivers. I think Norris is genuinely happy enough with second place here. He's not feeling like he's lost this one. He salvaged some good points from a great weekend, and I think in the end, Piastri's had the advantage over Lando in the crucial moments, and After last week, he deserves a break, doesn't he? That rain didn't come, didn't change things up. It has got dark overhead, DC.
Yeah, we might be doing a wet wrap-up, but...
Someone get this man an indoor filming location. DC doesn't fancy it.
Yeah, my makeup will run. But, guys, I've really enjoyed this weekend in Shanghai. I think the on-track action, there's been some great stories. There's been a lot of, developing driver relationships with their teams. And what a lap Russell did in qualifying yesterday, and he'll not be dissatisfied coming away with a podium today.
So Piastri waiting to give us his thoughts. We will hear from the top three in a few moments' time, and there'll be plenty to talk about across the board. We had that great overtaking battle between Russell and Norris. We had Piastri controlling things out front, but no one's certain about the strategy.
Yeah, I think the small delay in hearing from the drivers is they've pulled up on the start-finish straight, but the interviews will be done just below or to the side of the podium, so the drivers enjoying the moment, but starting to walk through now, and the McLaren boys are going to walk past the majority of their team.
And they'll take huge acclaim. The main grandstand sold out as well. It's been wonderful support across this Chinese Grand Prix weekend. Plenty of action for the fans to enjoy as well. And it's finished Piastri, Norris, Russell, Verstappen, who finishes where he started, Leclerc, Hamilton, Ocon, Antonelli. The last of the point scorers, Albon and Behrman. There is our winner. He's gone the wrong way, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Not ideal, but so I've not seen this happen for a while. He's hugging his team at the moment. We're doing this right out of the commentary box for you.
Yeah, we can see it all unfolding. We are eventually going to hear from our winning driver.
Yes, they're lining up now, and we will hear from George Russell, Lando Norris, and Oscar Piastri. I hope, because I'm running out of things to say in the gap before we hear from the top three. Surely just a few moments now, and there are hugs going on between the Australian and his team. A glug of water for Lando Norris, and there's a bit of confusion about what to do. This has been the longest build-up for a top three interview we've ever put together. So the crowd are waiting to hear the comments from those who finished in the top three, and we can now hear from the drivers.
Oscar, a very dominant win, a 1-2 for McLaren. Is this the start of your title campaign?
I hope so. It's been an incredible weekend from start to finish. The car's been pretty mega the whole time. I think today was a bit of a surprise with how different the tyres behave. But no, super, just proud of the whole weekend. This is, what I feel like I deserved from last week. So, no, extremely happy. The team did a mega job. 1-2, obviously. So, yeah, very, very happy. And, it's just very happy.
Yeah, with the track rubbing in, was the tyre wear less than